Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the LSU Sports Insider. Today is Monday, October the 28th. I'm Zach Ewing with Advocate LSU beat writer Koki Riley, and just a little chat today, kind of recapping the LSU Texas A&M football game, and looking forward to LSU's second bye week of the season, and I guess, Koki, whatever else comes to mind.
Yeah, probably another look around the SEC, and just another update on where everything stands after another crazy week in college football. So
Koki was at Kyle Field Saturday night, so we'll get kind of that firsthand perspective and continue to rehash that for those of you who did not see our post-game show on Saturday, and then kind of spin things forward as to what lies ahead for the Tigers in the last 4 weeks of the season. Our show today is brought to you by Waste Pro. Tiger fans, if you're planning a tailgate or event, keep your guests comfortable with portable toilets from Waste Pro. Call 225-744-6400 and mention the LSU Sports Insider for a special offer. All right, going to get going with our show. First, we got to take a quick break right after this.
Experience the convenience and cleanliness that Waste Pro brings to Mardi Gras, LSU tailgates, and festivals with our top-notch portable toilet services. Perfect for large crowds and community events. Join the countless satisfied families and organizers who trust Waste Pro to keep their gatherings spotless and sanitary. Discover more about our services and make your next event a success at wasteprousa.com.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Okay, so Koki, let's kind of finish just picking off the scab. You rip a Band-Aid all at once. LSU Texas A&M. LSU had control of this thing 17-7, almost midway through the third quarter. I guess a third of the way through the third quarter with the ball, facing a 3rd and 2, and then in 2 plays the whole thing changes. Garrett Nussmeier. First of all, hindsight's 2020. You could question, hey, you should be running the ball. Well, we'll talk about this, but LSU couldn't run the ball. Yeah. So they're throwing 3rd and 2. Nussmeier is pressured. He throws an ill-advised pass into traffic. Worst case scenario, A&M picks it off, returns it inside the 10. On the very next play, the Aggies insert Marcel Reed at quarterback. He runs for a touchdown. That was certainly a sign of things to come. And from that point on, outside of, I guess, one LSU touchdown drive, literally everything that could go wrong went wrong for LSU. It was just an avalanche of bad news.
Yeah, absolutely. And defensively, it was frankly kind of inexcusable from a coaching standpoint, just given how A&M ran the same exact play or a version of the same exact play time and time again. And that zone read with Marcel Reed at quarterback, the much more mobile version compared to Connor Wegman. And LSU just couldn't stop it. They just had no answer for the extra hat that they had to account for, and it just turned into an avalanche. And then on the flip side, it was just it was a culmination of all the structural issues that this LSU offense has, and A&M just did a much better job of exposing those in the second half, I thought. So I think LSU's offense is not a perfect unit, and that was the kind of the more predictable. Of the two disasters, that was the more predictable one, I'd say. But then on defense, again, I found it to be a pretty inexcusable performance, honestly.
I believe we're going to call him Marcel Zone Reed from this point on. No, I'm just kidding. That does bring to the point we have up on the slide right now what was the real problem. And this is a little bit of a generalization, but LSU just failed to make adjustments in that game.
Yeah.
I think there maybe were some on offense, but they could never get the running game going. They didn't have a lot of answers once they fell behind. And then on the other side, as you mentioned, it was just, it's the same play. And another Reed Darcy and I talked about this on the postgame show Saturday night, but you do have to give Marcel Reed some credit. Some of those zone reads were like, I couldn't believe he was able to pull the ball back with how deep it was in the belly of Le'Veon Moss. And it fooled the cameraman. It fooled you if you were watching on TV. It probably fooled everybody at the stadium. And you're like, how did he get that ball back? So he's really good at it. let's start there. Like, you have to give the guy credit. But at the same time, LSU didn't make the adjustment, and maybe more to the point, like Greg Penn said after the game, we didn't think he was going to play at all. We weren't prepared for it. We didn't. And to me, that is maybe even more damning for this coaching staff. It's like, the guy's played 3 games. He played pretty well. There was always a chance that if Connor Wegman struggled, the Aggies were going to turn to Reed.
Exactly. And it's, to me, this is so obviously on the coaching, because we know these players have ability. Like, we literally saw it in the first half, right? When they did such a great job of shutting down an A&M offense. They only had 7 points. They really only had 1 decent drive. I thought A&M controlled the line of scrimmage throughout the entire game, especially on the ground, really on both sides of the ball, but especially when they had the ball. But once LSU got that stuff sort of cleaned up a little bit in the traditional running game after that first quarter, I'd say, they were able to, force a lot of 3 outs and force Texas A&M to go backwards and put a lot of pressure on Connor Wegman. They were just doing a really good job of that. And then all it took was just having the quarterback start run with the ball, and that changed everything. And an adjustment that simple can't just, the whole house of cards can't just come falling down when there's one tweak like that, right?
Yeah.
It's just too easy for that to happen. That just can't happen. It just can't happen.
We're not football coaches. We didn't play high-level college football. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and say we have all the answers, but when you pay your head coach $9 million a year, sometimes you expect him to have the answers. And more to that, besides just the actual play calling and physical adjustments, it seemed like LSU kind of mentally fell apart too. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the ESPN broadcast. You can overhear Brian Kelly cussing out Peyton Todd on the sideline over the botched field goal snap. It just seemed like they were rattled. Kyle Field's a place where you can get rattled. But nobody seemed to want to step up and say, okay, let's calm down. We went through this in the USC game. We talked about being better at finishing games. And they were better against Ole Miss and South Carolina. Their other 2 close games this year at finishing them. So where was that on Saturday night, and why was it so difficult for anyone to just kind of steady the boat?
It was hard to say, and Garrett Nussmeier really tried to steady the boat. They even had that 1 touchdown drive that cut the lead back to 1 score in the 4th quarter, where you thought, okay, maybe they might get back into this game. But I think, especially defensively, they just felt lost. It just looked like a team that was that had been thrown back by a punch, and they just didn't really know how to counter. They just felt they felt like it was like a carpenter without any tools. And again, it comes back to that coaching point where it's just, you can't be that unprepared in that situation. You just can't be. And Reed's played this season. He's arguably just as good, if not better, than Connor Wegman is, even if he has a very different skill set. And I just can't believe that it was just that easy to take apart this LSU offense when you made 1 quarterback change like that. And on those zone read plays, someone's got to get the quarterback, right? That's that one player's assignment. And that's how you read out those things. Well, someone has the quarterback, someone has the running back, and I just don't understand why it had to be that. It looked that difficult, it looked impossible to stop.
Yeah, I'm thinking of one play. I think it was a 3rd and goal play. Maybe for A&M's. It was Reed's last touchdown run. It wasn't A&M's last touchdown, but it was the one that extended the lead from, I guess it was their last touchdown because they got a field goal in the last drive. It extended the lead from 28-23 to where, had LSU gotten a stop on that play, A&M has to kick a field goal. You're still within 1 score. It's still a ball game despite everything going wrong. And that was the play where Reed really got that ball deep into Le'Veon Moss. That mesh point was really well done by A&M. But to your point, there were 3 LSU defenders tackling Le'Veon Moss because they were convinced he had the ball, and then Marcel Reed pulls it back, and he just basically walks into the end zone. If there's 3 of you tackling Le'Veon Moss, somebody didn't do their job, just in case Reed pulls that ball back. And so it's just simple assignment football. And that's going to bring us, I think, to our keys to the game. And I guess we're guilty, too, because I don't think we brought Marcel Reed up last week as a possibility, even though when you look back on it, again, hindsight being 2020, probably should have. I mean, Connor Wegman played very well against Missouri. He played well against Mississippi State. He looked like he was going to be their starter, and he was. But he struggled mightily against Notre Dame in the season opener. Like, it was not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
That Wegman would have issues, and then A&M turns to Marcel Reed. He kind of led them to their first couple of wins on the season. I think he was the starting quarterback against Arkansas.
And Florida, too.
And Florida, when they won those games. And so you have to look at that. But one thing we did talk about, and this is our Keys to the Game segment. It's proudly sponsored by Associated Grocers. Join our team and support the success of local independent retail grocers. Apply today for available positions at Associated Grocers. We talked about stopping the run and running the ball. And that's really the other thing, Koki, is like LSU had a path to win this game, obviously. But even at 17-7 in the third quarter, it was going to be really difficult unless Garrett Nussmeier continued to have the career-type performance he was having in the first half. It was going to be difficult to salt that game away because they could not run the ball. They finished with 24 yards on 23 carries, which includes sacks. But even if you take out sacks, it was less than 2 yards a carry.
I almost don't care how good you are at quarterback. It's impossible to keep on playing as well as, for example, Nussmeier did in the first half and continue that into the second half when you have no changeup, you have no running game, you have no easy answers in the passing game, and everything has to be a deep progression rate, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are going to blame Nussmeier for this loss, and that first interception was absolutely egregious. I'm not going to try to defend that. But at the same time, like, if you're relying on your quarterback this much to make this many plays, and he feels like he has to make so many plays because you're stuck in third and longs all the time because you're in situations where he actually does have to make plays, then there's going to be mistakes. And you definitely saw that in this game when you're facing off against a very good at Texas A&M defense that also did a much better job of pressuring Nussmeier in the second half as well. I don't think a lot of people have talked about that, but it's also, again, a lot easier to pressure him when he can't run the ball or you don't have any easy answers on offense. And it's just like, to me, it didn't see, like, if that was going to continue, the lack of a rushing attack, the lack of easy answers on offense, the lack of, I guess, staying ahead of the sticks, then something like that was, I wouldn't say definitely going to happen, but likely going to happen, just because it's just so hard. It's almost impossible as a quarterback to just continue to make big plays when you're just stuck in those situations on every single drive.
Yeah, there was a lot of first down running the pile for a yard, second down running the pile for no gain. Now it's 3rd and 9. What are you going to do? And that just becomes worse when, like, it was 17-7. A&M has to respect the run because LSU is going to try to work on the clock, et cetera, et cetera. Once it was 17-14 and then pretty quickly 21-17, A&M's going to pin their ears back. And that was part of the problem. And Nussmeier was under pressure. They knew he had to throw. He knew he had to throw. Everybody knew that he had to throw.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And he wasn't very good, and he looked rattled after that first interception. But that's what happens. And I guess it's a continued question of why this offensive line that was so highly touted, that has at least 2 high NFL draft picks on it at the tackle positions and maybe more in the interior later in the draft, is so good at pass protection throughout this season, but has struggled so much to clear lanes in the running game. Is this a scheme thing? Is it just who these linemen are? That's kind of the mystery of this LSU season to me.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct, and it seemed like they had fixed some of those issues in the Arkansas game, but this A&M front is better than Arkansas's, clearly, and I thought A&M in this game more obviously than the others just won time and time again at the line of scrimmage. I thought they were the much more physical team. I thought they did a much better job of playing downhill in this game, and there was just nowhere for these running backs to run. And this wasn't a situation of the running backs not finding the hole. This was a situation of the linemen not creating any space for them to make plays, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you look to the final 4 games of the season, we know Alabama's got a very talented defensive front. But even, Vandy, we'll leave them out. But Florida and Oklahoma have talented players, highly touted recruits playing on those defensive fronts. If you don't figure it out.
But with the Vandy point especially on the Vandy point becomes a bigger deal on the other side of the ball, though, right? Because Vandy, they've got this kind of just triple option thing going with Pavier's ability to throw the ball, obviously. So, I mean, if you can't stop Marcel Reed on the zone read. How are you going to stop the triple option with Diego Pavia, right? When they have one of the better rushing attacks with the quarterback in the country.
It would help if you practice for it.
Yeah,
that would help. I think they will that week.
Let's hope so. But like after what you just saw in the A&M game, like, and Brian Kelly said it after the game, like if I'm an opposing team, I just run with the quarterback.
Well, if you're Kalen DeBoer, are you throwing in a couple more, zone read option plays?
If I'm Kalen DeBoer, I'm running the zone read on every single play until they show that they can stop it.
Because Jalen Milroe can run a little bit, as LSU found out last year. So that's not going to be easy either, and that game's coming up in less than 2 weeks now. So we're going to kind of spin things forward. A couple more things to talk about with the Texas A&M game first before we kind of get to that big picture. Tiger Fans Associated Grocers is hiring. Join a team committed to the success of independent retail grocers. Apply today at Associated Grocers and be part of something great. Time to talk about a bright spot from College Station. That's our Star Player, and the Star Player segment is proudly sponsored by Waste Pro. Ensure your tailgate or event is a hit with clean and convenient portable toilets from Waste Pro. Rent yours today. And that is Aaron Anderson. Only 3 catches, but you want to talk about making the most of 3 catches, 126 yards, including a 76-yard touchdown. When Nussmeier was humming in the first half and A&M's secondary kind of had to have its head on a swivel, Kyron Lacey had a good game. He went over 100 yards, but Aaron Anderson was the guy who kind of blew the top off that defense in the second quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. And his ability, I think he's such a really good fit with Nussmeier because you put Anderson in the slot and he can kind of run those slants over the middle of the field. And one of them, he broke out for that 76-yard touchdown. It was a pretty simple play. And he was able to just, beat the man with leverage and then just outrun the rest of the defense. So, he's a very, very talented player and particularly good over the middle of the field in that slot role. And it's just a good fit with Nussmeier, and those two guys have a pretty good connection.
Yeah, it's been fun to see him kind of have his breakout this year. He's obviously been a star and will be a star for LSU, for at least another year to come. So
I'm curious to see whether he'll go to the draft because he is draft eligible.
He's a redshirt sophomore.
He's a redshirt sophomore, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think he's a first-round pick necessarily, but you never know. We'll see.
He feels like the type of guy who could come back next year and really take the spotlight.
Yeah. If he wants it, for sure, yeah. But we'll see. Yeah. I don't know. I honestly have no feel for it, so
it'll be that's an interesting decision. But Aaron Anderson, our star of the game, and then on the other side, today's injury report, which is brought to you by the Baton Rouge Clinic. C.J. Daniels, another receiver, had the great game at Arkansas, having just come back from an injury. He left the game, didn't return, was seen in a walking boot after the game. Garrett Dellinger on the offensive line also left and did not return. No, during a bye week, it's going to be difficult for us to get updates on these guys, but neither one of those looked good, the fact that they didn't come back in.
Yeah, I don't think either of them are like season-ending stuff, but it's definitely going to be something to watch for as we head into the official Alabama week. Since this is the bye week, we're not going to get a lot of updates on these guys, but the fact that we have a bye week this week is obviously good news for these guys that have some extra time to rest, because it seems like Daniels is dealing with a few different injuries, right? He had the knee thing that kept him out of the Ole Miss game. Now he has seems like he has his ankle/foot issue. That's what put him in the walking boot. So and Dellinger also has an ankle injury. So and I don't think Paul Mubengo was necessarily awful in that game, but it would have certainly helped if Garrett Dellinger was, the left guard in that second half.
Yeah. We did see the season debut of Chris Hilton finally, who we've talked about on this Baton Rouge Clinic injury report for weeks now. And he was, I don't know if it was a rhythm thing or just maybe bad luck. Like they were obviously targeting him for big plays, and he came very close to hitting a couple of them and just couldn't quite haul them in.
Yeah, he looked like a player who hadn't played in 7 games and in 2 months. So that's what that kind of looked like to me. Like especially the first drop that he had, where he just simply mistimed his jump at the goal line, and if he times the jump right, it's probably a catch, and they're at the 1, if not scoring a touchdown on that play. So. It just felt like he was rusty in terms of just the speed of the game, the timing of throws, all that sort of little stuff. But he in terms of like just from a physical standpoint, like he certainly seemed like he had his wheels in that game for sure.
Yeah. Garrett Nussmeier kind of limped into the locker room at halftime. He got rolled up on a little bit at the end of the first half. I didn't notice a limp in the second half. Do you think that had anything to do with the way he played in the second half?
I don't think so, because again, a lot of it was just mental. It seemed like, and a lot of it was just the pressure that A&M was putting onto him to make quick decisions and these sort of muddy against these muddy coverages. So, but he definitely. I will say that he was definitely banged up for most if not all of the second half, and limping after plays and getting up slowly, and he got hit a lot in that second half, and he got sacked I think more in that second half than he had all season heading into that game.
Yeah, from that respect, probably a good time for the bye week. So,
yes.
Speaking of the bye week, we're going to come back and talk more big picture stuff and what LSU can do in the bye week to prepare for Alabama and just kind of generally raise their level on these key things we're talking about for the final 4-game stretch. First, want to let you know today's show is brought to you by the Baton Rouge Clinic, your trusted healthcare provider in the heart of Baton Rouge. Whether you're in need of primary care, specialist services, or urgent care, the Baton Rouge Clinic has you covered with a team of dedicated and experienced professionals. Visit BatonRougeClinic.com to learn more or to schedule your appointment today. The Baton Rouge Clinic, caring for generations. All right, let's take our last break. When we come back, we're going to talk LSU's odds in the SEC and to make the college football playoff. Also going to go around the SEC and talk some bye week adjustments that the Tigers can make. Be back right after this.
You know how far I've gone, now I'm home again. I'm feeling more alive these days than I've ever been.
At the Baton Rouge Clinic, our sole focus is to provide exceptional health care for your entire family so that you can get back to doing what you love most. We are caring for generations.
You gave me love, gave me love.
Since 1988, Classic Industrial Services, Inc. has led the industry in specialty contracting. From thermal insulation to scaffolding, coatings, and beyond, we cover it all. Every minute matters in our commitment to quality and safety. We're here to serve with roofing, siding, heat trace, and refractory services. Visit ClassicIndustrial.com for more information.
All right, back on the LSU Sports Insiders, Zach Ewing with Koki Riley. Hit the like button and share with your friends, all that good stuff. The LSU Sports at NOLA.com YouTube channel is growing every day. We put shorts up there. We had a cool short. Actually, LSU and A&M got into a shoving match. Some linemen got into a shoving match at the ends of Wilson Alexander. Took video of it, and they showed it from the other angle on ESPN. You could see Wilson in the corner taking his video. We put that up on our YouTube page. So we had that. We also had the Golden Band from Tigerland marching into Kyle Field, which was a cool video. So putting some stuff up. That's where our podcasts live. Best place to comment, especially on the live post-game shows. We can get your comments up live. So subscribe to that channel. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave that 5-star review for us. If you enjoy the content, tell us what you'd like to hear. We're going to be back Thursday. It'll be myself, Scott Rabelais, Reed Darcy, probably a more basketball-centric show. We're going to talk some LSU men's and women's basketball as that season starts next week, and taking advantage of the football bye week to kind of not that we won't talk any football, but we'll have a little basketball talk, Koki, and baseball's right around the corner too. That's your specialty.
Yeah, it's always good to talk about baseball. It's never not baseball season. That's my attitude.
What's your World Series take so far?
I think I think the Dodgers are in a pretty good spot. Quite frankly, I mean, they kind of had to win those first two games because they don't really have the starting pitching advantage in the series. So tonight's a big one. We'll see what Walker Buehler's stuff looks like tonight.
Yeah, Yankees got to win 4 out of 5 now, so it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
it's going to be real tough. But Freddie Freeman, that was a special moment. Even if you're not a Dodger fan, if you just like baseball, a walk-off grand slam in the World Series.
The ratings are up too, which is great for the sport.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully we didn't lose you non-baseball fans with that, but we want to talk about our sports betting segment, and the Queen of Baton Rouge proudly sponsors that. Experience the thrill of game day at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktails, your premier destination for elevated sports entertainment. Have the odds up on the screen here. LSU's odds to win the SEC took a big hit, to make the college football playoff took a hit, but maybe not as much as you think, Koki. They're 2-1 to make the college football playoff, which kind of implies like a 33% chance. And they're 7-1 to win the SEC. I guess the message here is that not all is lost. And it's hard. We talked about this in the postgame show. It's a little bit hard, I think, to grasp that because they were so close to being in this unbelievably great position heading into the final third of the season.
Yeah.
They were a quarter and a half away from controlling their own destiny for the SEC, for the college football playoff, from even having a pretty good margin for error to have those two things happen.
Yeah.
And instead, now you're looking at that margin for error is gone, but hope's not lost. 2-1 is not like, they're not like some super long shot to make the college football playoff. Now they're going to have to win their last 4 games and probably get some help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have to win out, and they have to get some help, not just from some of these other SEC schools, and I mean, they can essentially eliminate Alabama if they win. For example, like they would be eliminated. They probably need Georgia to beat Ole Miss, and then Ole Miss is probably done because those two schools will have 3 losses. But besides that, like you're hoping for an extra Indiana loss. You're hoping for an extra BYU or Iowa State loss, and both those teams are undefeated right now in the Big 12, which is kind of muddying the picture a little bit with the playoff. You're hoping for
Clemson to lose,
to lose, SMU to lose one more time, like stuff like that is what you kind of need if you're LSU to get the SEC to have at least they're gonna have probably 4, but if you want like 5, maybe even 6 teams from the SEC in the playoff, that's what you kind of need to happen.
Yeah, the help they need is not like crazy to hope for. They don't need anything insane to happen.
Yeah,
they just need some of these teams not to run the table while they do run the table. And if you could tell me LSU's going to win their last 4, I would actually say they're more likely to make the CFP than not. Just because I think that there's going to be enough chaos out there in a season where there doesn't seem to be a dominant team or even a couple dominant teams. I think if you told me right now that on November 30th LSU would be 10-2, I'm going to say they make the playoff.
It's just really hard because when you compare their 2-loss resume to some of these other 1-loss teams, it's harder. It's a lot harder to make the argument for LSU when I guess their best win is at home against Ole Miss in a game that was like almost a coin flip and went to overtime, and they didn't lead until the very last play. And Ole Miss is probably going to miss the playoff, and they're not going to have a win over a playoff team on their resume, which isn't necessarily great either for a 2-loss team. So It's just not the greatest. It's not the strongest resume, even if they do get the 10-2. I think that's kind of my point.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're guaranteed to make it. Certainly not.
Yeah.
I just think it's better than 50-50. And I don't know how many teams would have a win over a playoff team.
That's fair.
The playoff teams aren't going to have that many losses. So how many teams are going to have a win over a clear playoff team? I don't know. The trick is going to be getting to 10-2. That's what LSU needs to focus on. If they do that, you see these odds are plus 200. If you do that, I think the odds go into minus territory and they have a better than 50-50 shot of making it. We'll just have to see what else happens. And obviously they got to focus on Alabama first, because that's the most difficult of these 4 games. So Tiger fans, you can catch all the sports action at the Queen Casino's DraftKings Sportsbook Bar in 1717 Kitchen and Cocktails. And those odds you see on your screen are from DraftKings, by the way. With top-notch screens and live betting, it's the ultimate spot to watch your favorite teams and enjoy a cold brew or a signature cocktail. The Queen Casino is the only land-based casino in Baton Rouge and your go-to for game day or any day. Visit today and elevate your sports watching experience. Okay, so related to that, we're going to go into our Around the SEC segment, and that's brought to you by Classic Industrial Services. At Classic Industrial Services, every minute matters. And yeah, you mentioned this. There's a whole bunch of teams that are in the same boat as LSU. If we win out, we have a chance. If we lose even once more, it's over. I would even throw Texas A&M maybe in that. Maybe they have a little margin for error, but if they lose again, that's 10-2 for them. Their resume actually looks pretty good right now compared to a lot of 10-2 teams, because the losses to Notre Dame, who's a playoff team, possibly to Texas, who would be a playoff team.
Yeah.
You have a win over LSU. But if they lost to South Carolina this week, like all of a sudden A&M's in trouble too.
That's true.
And then you have 5. You have 5 teams with 1 or fewer loss. A&M is undefeated in the SEC. You have LSU, Texas, Tennessee, and Georgia, who all have 1 loss. Right now, if the college football playoff started today, I think LSU is the odd man out there.
Yeah. I don't see. Yeah, LSU's not in if it ends today. It's right now. I'd say it's Georgia, it's Texas, it's A&M.
And then Tennessee would be next in line if they even get in.
Tennessee would probably be the 4th team right now, I'd say. And then Alabama, Ole Miss, and LSU are kind of on the outside looking in at the moment. And in order for that 5th team to get in, stuff around the country has to start happening in the Tigers' favor, not necessarily within the SEC, because within the SEC, you have the Alabama game, and you can just hop Alabama, and then all of a sudden you are team 5. Essentially, right? Because I can't think of anybody else who's in that hunt. So, because especially since Missouri just got its 2nd loss, but it was a blowout loss, they don't really have any more impressive wins they can add to their resume. And after watching that game and with Brady Cook's injury, I'd be surprised if they finished the season with 2 losses.
Yeah, so. If their quarterback isn't back, they have no chance at 10-2. I would say after watching the way they played with the backup.
Even with him healthy, I'd say they don't have a great chance of going 10-2.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree, and I think we'll see. Again, the thing about college football is we have this tendency to say, today's October 28th, and this is how it is, and this team needs to win out because ABC. And then 2 weeks later, the conversation's completely changed because there's been 5 crazy results you did not foresee coming and didn't even consider. So let's revisit this in 2 weeks. If LSU beats Alabama, I'm going to say the picture's going to look a lot better for the Tigers if they can get that win. They're going to get some results this weekend, and they're going to get some more results that weekend of November 9th that will help them. And then I think there's still a pretty good chance they go into that final 3-game stretch with not just a pulse, but a pretty steady heartbeat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, this all hinges on beating Alabama.
You gotta beat Alabama.
Which is something they've done once since 2010. It's not going to be necessarily an easy game. But then again, I know Alabama won 34-0 this week, but I still think their offense is really janky. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves in the Alabama preview, but their offense still looks really, really uneven.
You mentioned the Missouri game. They're up 6-0 in that game late in the first half. It was not a blowout until Missouri started turning the ball over. I think the backup quarterback threw 3 interceptions in 4 drives. The first one led to a touchdown right before half. That I think it was 16-0, but it was either 13-0 or 13-0 at halftime. So it was like 6-0. Despite all of Missouri's injuries and struggles, Alabama was not blowing them out of the building until well into the second half.
They're kind of undisciplined. The receiving core seems light. They don't run the ball as well as you think they do. And then defensively, the secondary, if you have the right quarterback, the right passing attack, you can pick holes in that secondary as well. So it's they're just not as well coached as they were under Nick Saban, quite frankly, so far. And they're beatable. That's my point.
Yeah, and so that's really the point is, if LSU, we said this, they split these 2 games against Texas A&M and Alabama, they are still alive. They're still well alive. And I still think that's true. It's just that now you've lost one, and that means you've got to beat Alabama. If you lose both of those games, then we're probably talking about the ReliaQuest Bowl again, or the Alamo Bowl, or whatever. Well, I don't know. I don't even know the bowl pecking order anymore.
The Texas Bowl.
But at that point, the season kind of becomes an exercise in, what's left for us to play for.
Exactly. Yeah, it becomes kind of what the end of last season became in terms of we got to get the 10 wins. 10 wins is important. It shows this program's on the right track, sort of thing.
Yeah. Today's episode of LSU Sports Insider is brought to you by Classic Industrial Services. They're proudly serving Louisiana and the entire United States with metal siding and roofing, steam and electric tracing systems, industrial and commercial coatings, refractory services, general maintenance services, and much more. Classic Industrial is your go-to for quality and safety. They're not just about business. They're a proud community partner supporting local initiatives and helping build a stronger Baton Rouge. Because at Classic Industrial Services, every minute matters. Okay, so with that said, we're going to wrap things up here with kind of a look at the bye week, because we mentioned Thursday's show is going to be more basketball-centric. So as LSU goes into this break, Koki, what can they work on that is going to help them in these big picture areas where they've struggled. I'm thinking running the ball. I'm thinking defending mobile quarterbacks. Maybe some of the big plays in the passing game, those sorts of things. What are you putting your focus on if you're Brian Kelly instead?
It's all about the zone read. You got to stop the zone read. And I know that sounds silly, but A&M won the second half 31-6 while having, like 2 or 3 passing attempts the entire second half?
There were 2 of 2 passing. Once Marcel Reed came in.
Yeah, there were 2 of 2 passing once Marcel Reed came in. And they still gave 31 points in that stretch. So, that explains everything, what you got to do defensively, because they can defend a traditional passing attack. They can defend a traditional running game well enough. We saw it in the first half against A&M. We saw it against Arkansas. We saw it against Ole Miss. It's just now you got to stop when the quarterback starts run the ball himself and on these zone reads. You got to stop that. It's that simple to me.
Yeah, and I mean it sounds simple, and obviously they're not going to spend 10 days working on just that, but you have to get it fixed, because Mike Elko showed what a good coach will do. If it ain't broke, I'm not fixing it, and I'm just going to keep running it until you prove you can stop it. As you said earlier in the game, that's what Texas A&M did with the game on the line. Hey, they can't stop it. Let's run it again. They didn't stop it that time. Let's run it again. They didn't stop it that time. Hey, and Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. He's a good offensive coach. He's got a mobile quarterback. He's going to watch that film. And I'm not saying they're going to run that 90% of the time or anything, but you're going to see a heavy dose of it until you show that, yes, we fixed our keys, we fixed our assignments, and we can stop it. You got to do something else.
And it's not just stopping it once or twice. It's stopping it when, after 3 passing plays and 2 traditional run plays, then they run it again. You know what I mean? Just to see if they're on their toes enough and disciplined enough to hit the curveball after seeing 5 straight fastballs, that sort of thing. Also defensively, so it's just adding it to the repertoire of things that they're aware of and can stop and have the right keys to, even when it's not coming on every single play. So it's both levels of that,
Yeah, and we talk about Alabama, but you mentioned Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt, DJ Lagway, the backup quarterback, now the starting quarterback at Florida, also a mobile guy. I don't know what Oklahoma's doing on offense, but you never know. If
the mobile quarterbacks are there on that side too.
If you're Oklahoma and nothing is working, and you see what LSU's kryptonite is, you would certainly try that too. So I mean, it's something you got to show that you can fix, and if you can't, then all this talk about 10-2 in the playoff is totally crazy. Anything else? Maybe something on the offensive side. I mean, the running game, I guess at this point is just going to be hit or miss.
Yeah, it's got to be the running game, and maybe you just get super duper creative with it and start running more under center. They were in the T formation the other night on the goal line. They've gotten pretty creative with their goal line runs. So I mean, maybe you just get really, really exotic and weird and just start throwing stuff at Alabama that they haven't seen on tape in the running game. I don't know. I'm almost running out of answers for
I don't know
LSU at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, Nussmeier has played so well. The passing game is going so good. Man, you don't need anything crazy.
Yeah.
You just need enough to make them respected.
Or you start going to the screen game more, right? That's something that they just haven't really done much at all this season. The wide receiver screen game, the running back screen game. I mean, they have that one outlet pass to the running back that they like to run with Caden Durham, and they put him in Durham in space, and they get the wide receivers blocking downfield. That was the play that was the opening touchdown against South Alabama. They've run that play a couple different times. Maybe just run that more, but stuff like that would make sense. Because they just need more. It's not just the running game. They don't have any easy answers on offense, because everything just seems to be a 5-step progression, and you're reading all these different things over the field, and you're just making life very difficult from a down to down basis. They need easy buttons on this offense in general, and it starts with the running game, obviously, but it's more than just the running game too.
Yeah. Okay, so LSU plays Alabama, I guess, in 12 days, and we'll talk much more about that. But as I said, Thursday's show will be more basketball-centric as we do kind of a season preview for the men's and women's LSU basketball teams. So until then, wish you a great week. Hope you subscribe to the LSU Sports at NOLA.com YouTube channel, or leave us a 5-star review. Comment below on what you think LSU needs to do during its bye week, and we will say goodbye. For Koki Riley and our producer Alex Lee, I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching the LSU Sports Insider.